So Joe Rogan had on Tim Dillon once again for maybe the 9 trillionth time in the past 6 months. Tim Dillon is a cool guy, though. He's a lefty. And Joe Rogan talked about Ted Cruz going to Cancun as the ice storm hit in Texas. And basically, you know, the snowstorm is going on. People are left without power, without heat. It was a complete, full-fledged disaster. And the fact that Ted Cruz actually flew to Cancun as the beginning of when that was happening was truly an outrage. And so Joe Rogan here is going to say one of the most preposterous things I've ever heard. And I think it feels like it's indicative of a trend at this point. We'll talk about this more after we watch the clip. But it seems to be indicative of a trend of him losing his credibility and turning into a full-fledged, unadulterated douchebag. But what he's going to say here is, right, there's 100 senators in the United States, 2 per state, right? It's a very elite organization. If you're one person, you have an incredible amount of power. You're in the 0.00001%, you know, of people. And he's going to ask the question, well, what could Ted Cruz as a senator of Texas do in the case of, you know, a state emergency?
Nothing was open.
No.
You know?
Tell you what was open, the Houston airport, and my boy Ted Cruz is like,
yeah, he was out. And by the way, isn't it sad that, like, he couldn't get away with it? It's like, here's the thing about the Bush family. Say what you want about them, maybe whacked Kennedy, bygones, but, I mean, now our leaders can't even get caught taking a commercial flight to Cancun. Like, that's pretty sad.
But here's the thing, like, what can he do? What is the reason for him staying?
Well, I think it's just the optics of how it looks. Yeah, right. But of course, no, he doesn't have any of...
Can he make it warm out?
No, I don't think he has any power to do anything good.
Maybe he should be there with blankets.
Yeah,
put him
well,
over
it's
the
funny.
pipes.
It's like the people that hate him the most are the ones that are like, he should be there. And it's like, doing what?
Well,
here's
the thing, though. Yeah. He was one of the vocal critics of...
So his comment is just absolutely insane. So... while it is true that Ted Cruz is a national senator, which means, you know, he's a elected representative to go and be part of the U.S. Senate and vote on behalf of the people of Texas that elected him, he absolutely has a role to play, and he certainly can do a lot of things. Some of the things that he should be doing are being done by people from all the way up in the Northeast. AOC raised $5 million. Yes, a Democratic representative from NY, New York. That's right, New York raised $5 million for Texans in relief. Think about how far that $5 million is going to go in just changing regular people's lives. Think about how many people are going to be getting relief from this big pool of money that was raised. Think about people who are going to be able to have power, food, survive, etc. in this horrible crisis. So she raises $5 million. Beto O'Rourke, who, remember, he lost the race narrowly, by the way, which tells me that, you know, Ted Cruz is probably in trouble the next time around. He was also part of the helping movement, and he was basically getting seniors, you know, a place for shelter, hot meals. You know, he said, big thanks to the volunteers who made over 784,000 phone calls to senior citizens in Texas today. You helped to connect them with water, food, transportation, and shelter. Made sure they knew we were thinking about them and that they mattered to us. So he was basically out there making sure that, you know, people could get heat, people could get shelter, people could get a hot meal. These are the exact things that you can do being a senator. You are incredibly powerful as a senator, and as a representative of your constituents, you have a job to show up and be on the front lines of aiding them. So you ask the question, well, what could Ted Cruz do? You know, make the ice go away? No, you dumbass. What he can do is he can go and provide relief, do exactly what AOC and Beto O'Rourke are doing. Think about how many connections Ted Cruz has in Texas. Think about how much work he could do in relaying potential relief money from various people, powerful people in Texas. You know, think about all the fundraising he could do in terms of money. Think about all of the connections that he has, everything he could do. It's your job to be a leader, be out there on the front lines, making sure everybody's okay, giving as many people relief as possible. That means getting them food, you know, getting them shelter, getting them heat, etc. Raising money, you know, calling phones, things like that. These are things that are being done by people who are not even from Texas. or at least AOC. The others are from Texas. Beto is from Texas, obviously. AOC is from NY. So think about how embarrassing it is that a House representative, that's right, not even a senator of the United States, a House rep has raised $5 million in relief for Texas. So there's a ton of things that Ted Cruz should be doing. And by the way, this isn't just like something AOC's doing to jump in. You know, she's been doing this in her own district for COVID this entire time. So she's been making sure that people have food, checking in with their constituents. This is something you're supposed to do as a representative. It's your job as the elected official to do so. To be a leader, to provide relief in these situations. So, you know, your elected senator running away is a horrible sign. And the fact that Joe Rogan said this, honestly, to me, seems to be indicative of a trend that he's going down. A lot of people caught, wind of his ridiculous COVID vaccine stuff where he was saying he's not going to take the COVID vaccine. It's very dishonest. Even if he were to have, I think his argument was, I'm healthy enough or whatever. You don't say something like that because it is going to destroy the trust in the vaccine. So it's at best, at most charitable, it's just sort of irresponsible, right? But we've seen what he's been trying to downplay COVID this whole time. He's been shitting on the lockdowns that have been going on, which are literally needed for the pandemic. There's a pandemic going on. I think what a lot of idiots don't understand is they look at the death counts right now, and they seem to think that if we were to open up, it wouldn't explode, right? The only reason why deaths are even what they are now, which is really too high, luckily it's starting to go back down again, but the reason why they're lower than what magnanimous numbers you would need it to be for it to really be a problem is because we locked down. I think a lot of people don't understand that, but Joe just seems to wants to be able to go to his comedy club, and he's just turned into a full-fledged douchebag now with all of his takes, all of his ideas, sucking the nuts of Texas, basically. Oh, here's another thing Ted Cruz could do. He could come out and be like, oh, you know what? I am now in favor, and I'm going to lobby for the adoption of regulations for winterizing and making sure that our fuel sources are actually going to work in these situations, This talking point, this is like a once-in-a-lifetime or once-in-a-century storm. A similar storm happened in 2011. There were warnings given to Texas government officials. They did nothing. There was another one in 1987. So no, this is a consistent thing that's been going on. And if you notice, the gap from 1987 to 2011 is bigger than 2011 to 2021, right? That's a bad sign. That's a bad sign. So this was a failure on the part of Texas, government officials, obviously. And I think that, what we're going to get into now is his own fans are really turning on him here. And so what that means is his comment section is essentially shitting on him relentlessly. So I will agree, or I will admit that I think part of this is possibly, it does appear that the sort of popularity of Joe Rogan has really started to go down after his move to Spotify. People, I think rightfully so, saw it as kind of a very greedy, cash grab. He's already super rich. And he went to a platform that really, it really diminishes his product, and it really shafts his main fans, his main fan base on YouTube, the comment section, that really made him popular. And so it's understandable why they felt that way, I think a lot of people saw through that. But people are just going off on him. A lot of it, I think, has to do with, though, this move by Ted Cruz is so unbelievably indefensible that everybody is against it. Everybody is shitting on it. So, here's a comment that says, what could he do? They were choosing which neighborhoods got blackouts. Maybe starting there and build a more efficient system to protect everyone. Did he really ask what one of the senators of Texas could do to help? It is an insane question that he actually asked. It's actually insane. Ted Cruz, an all-time scumbag, and here's all the horrible things he does. But he once said Google is bad, so you need to weigh the positives too. He did try adding that in at the end there. Joe has the easygoing look of a guy who just waited out a week-long blizzard in a $15 million mansion with an industrial generator and a guest house full of elk meat. See, now I just came up with an idea that might be the reason for this podcast going so downhill. Joe used to kind of represent the common man, right? That's his entire shtick, is being the common guy, being the average Joe, no pun intended. And I think that this newfound extreme wealth and connections he's had, I think is kind of ruining that, right? We see this happen with a lot of people who whose ideas and stories are based on being a normal person, then they become really popular, and then it just kind of, it's not really there anymore. So there is a possibility that that's going to ruin his podcast, because he's no longer an average Joe. He's become the elitist douchebag prick that he's been shitting on all of these years. So, you know, now that I'm coming across that sort of light bulb moment, it's quite flashing. As the old saying goes, when the going gets tough, fly to Cancun, Ted Cruz. It's basic leadership. You don't just leave the people you're leading when a major event happens. That's absolutely true. Going on vacation, running away during the biggest crisis to stay seen for decades. Literally the opposite of what we vote these guys in for. What has happened to Joe? You know, powerful Joe Rogan sounding completely facetious and out of touch. You know, there's just so many of these, man. This is the audacity of some of these politicians, man. If only he could have done the performative part of being senator and raised a couple million to help his constituents. That's also another good point, I would say, man. The lack of even an attempt to sort of even do like a performative piece of art in terms of just trying to put on a show or grandstand as to actually doing anything is actually kind of significant when you think about it. I wonder what the reason for that is. People writing that, you know, AOC raised $5 million. Mac Lethal, who does rap videos, says, what could Ted Cruz do? Raise money, go door to door, ask if he can help elderly people with things they need in their homes, volunteer, passing out blankets, pass out food, find homeless people and house them. He's senator. Literal job is to lead. So yes, you know, this just goes on, as you guys can see, just people shitting on both Ted Cruz and Joe Rogan. And what it does appear is actually happening, folks, is people are, I know this sounds cliche on my channel, but people are turning on Joe Rogan. They really are. They're getting tired of Joe Rogan because he sort of has seemed to gone down the gutter completely after his Spotify move. And it does appear that Joe Rogan is in trouble with his fans. And he's turned into a douchebag. Any sort of credibility he had previously, to me, he's just horrible. I don't like him anymore. I think that he's terrible with all the COVID stuff that he did. Now with this Ted Cruz stuff. And there's even more, man. It's just, something's happened to him ever since the whole LA stuff happened. The LA to Texas move. Something has happened. I don't know if he was lying about who he was all along, or now he has some crazy connects and a lot of money and he's become an elitist prick. I don't know what it is, man, but I'm fully done with Joe Rogan. To me, he has no credibility left.